I recently went to a dollar bin, not once, but twice. Want to find out what I got? Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in. I am the Dude Without Fear. And last week I went to a comic book store looking for some specific books so that I can fill out some storylines that I've got in my read pile so I can get those books read and get them out of my read pile. Well, that store had a dollar bin, and I knew they had a dollar bin, and I was trying really hard to avoid that dollar bin. But something in that dollar bin caught my eye, and I had to go through it. So I went through it, and I found a bunch of stuff that I wasn't intending to buy, but they were just $1, so not a big deal, right? Well, I went back to that store yesterday looking for some specific books as well. These books were for a video that I'm planning on doing in the future, and I noticed that he had restocked the dollar bin. So I went through those and found what I think is some pretty rad stuff. So I want to share that with you. But before I get into my dollar bin finds, I want to share some other books that I bought yesterday and last week at these excursions that I think are just kind of cool and neat, and just want to share them with you. If you're like me, you like seeing cool books that people get, so here's some cool books that I got. This first one is Marvel Superheroes featuring the Incredible Hulk, number 59. And if you're a subscriber, you know that this is one of my favorite Hulk covers ever, Incredible Hulk number 105. And this is a reprinting of this comic. You can see the cover is slightly different, but I love this cover so much, I love this book so much, that when I saw this, I couldn't pass it up. And so this will be the one that I read going forward, and this one I'll keep sealed up in its Mylar, looking pretty. So that's a pretty cool book. Excited to have it. This is a series that I bought when it was new. I bought it for the first year, and I stopped, not because I didn't like the book, but because I was just buying too much stuff, and I felt like I could find these later in back issues for cheaper. And they're kind of not easy to find, but I have found some for usually $1, and it's much cheaper than $4. So this is Back to the Future number 23, IDW. And what's so cool about these is that Bob Gale, the writer of Back to the Future and the protector of Back to the Future, the guy that keeps Back to the Future from being remade by these Hollywood idiots, he writes these comics, and it's pretty cool. So I mean, they're not as good as the movies are, but they are still a fun read for Back to the Future fans. So happy to pick that up. Anytime I see this book, if it's in good shape, I buy it. And this is Batman 442, and it's the first appearance of Tim Drake in a Robin costume. And it's the Dick Grayson, Jason Todd Robin costume, not his Robin costume. That comes a few issues later. But this is a good book to pick up if you can find it cheap, because it's a minor key, and it's an iconic cover. That's such an awesome cover. I actually plan on framing this cover and a more recent cover of Detective Comics that is an homage cover to it. I plan on framing both of those together and hanging those up, because I love Tim Drake Robin. One of my favorite characters, my favorite Robin, because I grew up with Tim Drake. I bought Robin back issues from the beginning. Robin was still coming out new when I started buying them, but I would buy the back issues as they, from one up, and I read the story of Tim Drake, and I read about him growing up and stuff, and I grew up with Tim Drake. So that's why Tim Drake is my favorite Robin. And so any key book with Tim Drake, I'm a sucker for. I thought this book looked super cool. It might not be because it's kind of old, but this is DC Comics Presents number 41, Superman and the Joker, which these old Joker books like this is just, it's cool stuff. And it's got a 16-page preview of Wonder Woman in it, so I can read that and see if I want to get any older Wonder Woman books. This looked really rad. This was Iron Man number 250, and this says it's the year 2093 AD. Iron Man must team up with Dr. Doom to save Camelot. That just sounds cool. So Iron Man and Dr. Doom working together, sold. In the future, time traveling, double sold. And then this book this is the last one before we get into the dollar bin stuff. Recently, like, I've been really attracted to old school horror comics, and I've wanted to get a bunch and wanted to get some, read them, see what they're like, and I've yet to be successful in doing that until yesterday, when I came across this one. One of the comic shops I went to multiple yesterday looking for stuff, but one of the shops I go to sometimes gets a lot of that stuff in, but they're usually not in great shape. And he had some that he had recently got in that hadn't been bought yet. They get bought up really fast. And I was looking, and this one appealed to me. And it appealed to me because it's not DC and it's not Marvel. It is Red Circle Comics, which was an imprint of Archie Comics. And this is Chilling Adventures in Sorcery number 4. And I bought it because it's a Red Circle comic. I'm not big into sorcery, so that didn't appeal to me. But I bought it because it was in good shape. It's a 20-cent book, and something about it appealed to me. So I bought it and I read it. And so what it is just it's a bunch of different stories, like 6-7 page stories in this book. And the main one that's on the cover is this dude right here. He's kind of like a Svengoolie type, if Svengoolie was a Sven douchebag. So he's got this like creature feature show where they'll play a movie, and live in between scenes of the movie he'll do stuff. And so like he is a huge douche, and he keeps complaining about the crappy props that his people keep getting him and everything. And so during a break, he's like, throwing a tantrum and everything. And he's complaining about these crappy props. And this guy shows up he just says his name. He's like, "What?" He's like, "You may not remember me. You fired me a few years ago because I was complaining about how much my wife's medicine cost. And then, my wife died, and you fired me." It's like, "But I've been working really hard to get back on the show, to get you some great stuff. So here is a book here's a book prop. I want you to turn to this page that's marked and read that." And he's like, "Oh man, this looks authentic. This is awesome." And so he, when he goes back live on the air, he does what he says, and he reads this, spell or whatever out of this book. And the guy's thinking, he's like, "Oh man, this looks wild. He's like, but I can't not do it because I'm live on TV. So he reads his spell, and all these like demons and spirits and stuff come out of the book, and he's like freaking out, and they essentially take him to hell. And you know, the people the people filming the show are like, holy crap, how in the world did he manage those special effects? And then they just see his boots sitting there smoking, and they're like, I don't think these are special effects. I think we got to recast our guy. And so I thought that was pretty cool. So that's all for those. Now we're into the dollar books. So last week, the book that caught my eye in the dollar bin was Jim Lee's X-Men #1 Deluxe edition. This has the gatefold cover that folds out and shows, you know, it's like all the normal covers put together in one deluxe cover. And so I picked this up. It's in really good shape. It's got one little ding on it right here, but it's not color breaking, so it's pretty good shape. But so this one caught my eye, but right behind it was this cover and this cover and this cover and this cover. So I got all of the covers for X-Men #1 for $1 a piece, which is what I paid for X-Men #1 back when I was like 12 years old, and as a back issue. So that's pretty dope, and they're all in fantastic shape. So they also had this X-Men #10, which I only picked up because the copy of this that I have, I got out of a 35-cent bin, and it's not in great shape. And every time I've come across this comic in the wild, it has just been in terrible condition. Like, I don't know what it is about this book, but every time I've come across it, it's just in garbage shape. And this one is pretty pristine. So I picked it up so I can replace my 35-cent copy. I love Batman Adventures comics, and I know these aren't as good as those. Most things aren't, but these are these comics based on animated series are kind of get a little bit hot in price. They kind of go up in price a little bit, and some of them are pretty good. So I found this X-Men Adventures #3, so I picked that up. And I got these books last week, so these are all in fresh bags. These ain't coming back like this. Some of these weren't in bags, some of these were in grody bags, as some dollar bins tend to be. I didn't buy this series when it came out because I'm not a huge fan of Damian Wayne. And this series looked really weird, and it's New 52 stuff. But it was $1 and it's a #1, so I figured I'd buy it and give it a shot because I love Robin so much. It's Robin, son of Batman #1. Ooh, and these, one of my favorite comic series ever. One of my favorite comic characters ever. And I've been piecing together this series, this run, from this dollar bin, and it's pretty, every time I go I find more of them, and it's awesome. I hope to find them all. But it's Denny O'Neil and Dennis Cohen's The Question, and this is number 22 and 23 and 27. And then I got Steel #0. He had more issues of Steel, but they were more in the middle of the run, and I don't want to buy a bunch of them and just have them stack up. So I'm trying to stick closer to what I've already got, which is the early books. So issue 0 in my range. So I got it. And I was super stoked to get this book because I had just read the issue before this. And I don't have this issue until now, but it's Showcase 94 number 9, and it's the origin of Scarface, the ventriloquist. And so I had gotten this, I think, at that mini-con that I went to, and got issue 8 of it. And I just read that a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, I need to get the next issue of that. Lo and behold, dollar bin find. So that's all the dollar books from last week. Now we get into this week's. And this book is in crap shape. The only reason I bought it is because I've been wanting to get into these books, and I don't know if they're any good or not. So I wanted to buy this issue to kind of give me a taste of the series, to see if that's something I want to get into or not. And so since I'm just buying it to read and try out, I'll pay $1 for it. It is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Adventures number 26. So I very much look forward to reading that. I'm in a huge Ninja Turtle mood. The Last Ronin really just like sucked me into a Ninja Turtle mood. So I'm all about Ninja Turtles at the moment. This is Marvel Age number 20, and Marvel Age was a kind of like a preview editorial type magazine that Marvel did for a while. And I'm not a huge fan of Marvel Age. I don't collect them. I'll keep some of the really cool covers that I come across, but I got this one because it is Letters to Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. And so Marvel Superhero Secret Wars did not have letters pages. So this is some of the letters that people wrote in after reading issue 1, and that really intrigued me. So I read one of them last night, just kind of skimmed them. It's just a couple pages of letters, but they were like, this is the greatest comic book I have ever read in my life. No comic could ever be better than this. And so I thought that's cool. So I look forward to reading the rest of them. I've got very few issues of this, but I kind of decided I want to start getting them when I can find them for cheap and in good shape. And this is Marvel Fanfare number 5. And I had a couple of issues of these, but this is the only one that was in good condition at all. And so I picked this one up. It's Doctor Strange on the cover. I'm not a huge Doctor Strange fan. I'm not really big into magic and all that crap. But Marvel Fanfare has 2 stories in it. And the first one is Doctor Strange, and it's actually written by Chris Claremont, so I'm sure it's great. And then the backup story is actually Cap and Bucky in World War II, so very stoked for that. Then I found this, which I didn't even know this existed. This is, oh, it's sticking to the next book. Oh no. Tape pull. Gotta go slow. Gotta go slow. Oh man. How did that happen? Okay. Didn't rip. Beautiful. This is Marvel Fanfare Volume 2, which I didn't even know was a thing. And this is Sabretooth fighting Power Man and Iron Fist. And that sounds pretty dope. Unlike Volume 1, this is just one story, and this was in the mid-90s. These is during they had a lot of 99-cent books, and so this is one of them. And sadly, this only ran for 6 issues, and this is the last issue of that series. So I don't know what the other ones are. I've never seen any of them before ever, and which is odd because I've seen a lot of comics in my day. But super excited to read Sabretooth fighting Power Man and Iron Fist. I don't normally collect G.I. Joe, but I kind of been buying a few issues here and there just because it's something different, and some of them are really good. And this one appealed to me because it's introducing Metalhead, and that's a cool name. This dude's got a beard. Appealed to me. So we'll give that a shot and see what that's like. I found an old issue of Superman number 396, and it was in pretty good shape, so I picked it up. An issue of Flash that I don't have, issue 46. It's Flash versus Vixen by Grodd's command. So that's probably pretty decent. Really old issue. I mean, not super old. It's as old as me. It's 1 month older than I am. But it is the Green Lantern Corps number 222. And it's all a bunch of Green Lanterns charging Sinestro is guilty. And so these always interest me, but I think this is the only one I've bought. This thing is the only one I have of that series of Green Lantern Corps. I wish that they had more of these in the dollar bin, but this is the only one they had, and I wound up getting it into a 6-part miniseries. This is part 5 of Superpowers. My brother loves Superpowers action figures, and they are pretty cool. But I've never read the comic series that came out for the toys, and you know, it's got Jack Kirby art in it, so I'm not going to pass up some Jack Kirby goodness. So excited to read that. And then I found issue 3 of Green Arrow, and this is kind of like the question books. They're suggested for mature readers, so I mean, these got some kind of hardcore stuff in it, and so it's an early issue, so I figured I'd pick it up, give it a shot. I found that one after I found this issue, number 9, and that cover just looked really cool and intriguing, and so I decided to get this one, and then I found issue 3 behind it, and I was like, well, I'll just get them both. Now, this book is something totally new to me. I didn't know this was a thing, didn't know this existed. As I stated earlier, the question, one of my favorite characters ever. I came across, there was a lot of garbage tier, what I call garbage tier books in this dollar bin that he put out. You know, like just publishers that just put out trash. Stuff that you can't even sell in dollar bins usually. Well, in the midst of all that was this book, Americomics Special Number 1, Sentinels of Justice. And what captured my attention about this book is because the team is Captain Atom, Nightshade, Blue Beetle, and the Question. And I was like, what the heck is this? And it's published by Americomics, which is AC Comics. And so the Question and Blue Beetle were Charlton Comics characters. Steve Ditko created them under the Charlton Comics imprint, and Charlton licensed these characters to Americomics, AC Comics, in '83, and they were doing so. Actually, Charlton licensed their characters to AC Comics because Charlton wanted AC Comics to do some stories for them. Well, that fell through, but they still had the license for the characters, so they started this book. And this book lasted for a little bit before DC acquired the rights to these Charlton characters, which is where that Denny O'Neil Question comes in. So this is kind of a weird in-between phase, in between Charlton and DC Comics rights to these characters. So very interesting to me. I had no idea that existed, so I'm going to look forward to reading that. And speaking of the Question, I found more. Found issue 15 and issue 35. Now, a while back when I went to a 25-cent sale at my comic store that I frequent, I found a bunch of these that I passed up because I didn't know if they were any good, and I was curious about them, but I wasn't curious enough to buy them. So I found more of them at this dollar bin, and they're early issues, so I wound up picking up a few. And it's by one of my favorite writers, Chuck Dixon. It's from Eclipse Comics, and it is Airboy. And I mean, just look at that. That looks pretty cool. You got this old dude with a katana. You got this cool looking pilot up here, and then you got Airboy. And so I have no idea what this comic's about. I know it's like got a cult following. So I wanted to pick it because these are early issues. I wanted to pick them up and see if I like it, see if it's something that I would enjoy, and see if it's something I want to get more of. So they had issue 2, issue 3, and issue 4. And these are in pretty decent shape. They're not in fantastic shape. They got some, some crinkles and stuff, but they're not bad for $1 for a comic that I'm sure there's not a gajillion of. I very rarely see these books. So back in about 2012 or something like that, one of my favorite comic book writers, Duane Straczynski, he wrote a fantastic run on Cable Volume 2, wrote the back half of Immortal Iron Fist run. He's just a really good writer, and I tend to follow writers more than I follow artists, because I buy comics to read, and the art's just an added bonus to it. But so there was this, remember that comic that I got, the horror comic that was from Red Circle Comics, which is an Archie imprint? Well, Archie they brought those characters from that era back, from the Red Circle era, back in about 2012, 2013, and they were, darker, grittier books, and instead of Red Circle, they called them Dark Circle Comics. And one of my favorite one from that run is The Black Hood, and because it's written by Duane Straczynski, and it's about a cop who just gets tired of the crap and becomes a vigilante to bring people to justice, because he can't really do it as a cop because of the system and all this stuff, blah blah blah. But super fun read. I really enjoyed it. Very dark, very gritty, and it had awesome covers by one of my favorite artists. I thought this was a Francisco Francavilla cover, but it's not. But he did some of those covers, and they were dope. But so, because I love this series so much, when I came across some original Black Hood stuff from Red Circle, I was like, oh man, I gotta give it a shot. I have to give it a shot. It may suck, doesn't look that great, but for $1, I'm willing to give it a try. And who knows, it could be awesome. And so I picked that up, and I also picked up another Red Circle book, The Shield, number 2. And then they also had, in the 90s, DC acquired the rights to those characters, and they actually had a new imprint called Impact Comics, and they did The Shield as well. So I bought The Shield number 1 in that, Legend of the Shield. And interesting fact about The Shield, The Shield was the first patriotic superhero. He debuted in 1940, I believe, and Captain America didn't debut until 1941. So The Shield actually predates Captain America. He's the first superhero to have a patriotic theme. This is a character that I really like, but I've not really read any of the books, and I've wanted to, but I've never really had the opportunity. So I found a couple of these in the dollar bin, and I picked them up. And that is Judge Dredd, issue 9, issue 13, in issue 15. I've read some of IDW's Dwayne Straczynski, that writer I mentioned earlier, that did Black Hood. He wrote some Judge Dredd comics for IDW around that same time as he did Black Hood, and they were okay, but I wanted to read some like old Judge Dredd stuff to really get a feel for the character. And then this book was in the front of the dollar bin, and I'm not huge into this character, but this cover is really cool because I'm an American and I love America, and I like American flag covers. They just appeal to me. And this is Swamp Thing number 44 by Alan Moore. So that's pretty cool to find the Alan Moore Swamp Thing comic in the dollar bin. I also found some more Alan Moore comics in the dollar bin, and this is a series that I've wanted to read, but never have, and I've never seen any of these in the dollar bin, and so because I found them, I picked them up, and I don't know if I'll ever get the rest of them, but I'm going to read these and see what they're like to see if I want to pursue that. But it is Miracle Man number 4, as well as Miracle Man number 14. And this is about a $15 to $20 comic on eBay, so very stoked to pick that up for $1. So there's my comic book haul from the last 2 weeks of dollar bin diving. I hope you saw some stuff that you enjoyed, maybe learned something. I appreciate you watching. If you liked the video, please give me that thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, you're going to want to subscribe because I've got some content coming up that I'm very excited for. And hopefully you will be too. So be sure to hit that notification bell because you want to know when this content has been uploaded. I hope that the crew Without Fear and anyone else that may be watching, I hope that you have a very happy Thanksgiving. Even though 2020 has been pretty crappy for most people, each of us still has something that we can be thankful for. And so I'm thankful that I've been able to start this channel up because it's something that I enjoy, and I look forward to seeing it continue to grow and see where it goes. And I'm thankful that I get to share my hobby with people that have similar interests, and it's been a fun adventure thus far, and I look forward to where we go from here. So enjoy the time with family, with friends, and until next time, take it easy.